Whiting, I think you're muted.
Yes, I am. Thank you. I'll start
You're,
all over again. Thank you.
you're
Um,
welcome.
this is Dr. Peggy Whiting. I'm glad to see everybody, and I want to extend a warm welcome to each of you. We are glad that you are joining our counseling program, and we are excited that you're with us here tonight. The purpose of tonight is to give you a larger overview of our program. So you do not need to be concerned about remembering details of this or that within the orientation. All of this information will be made available to you. It is in our student handbook, which I will point out to you where that is a little bit later. I will also make available a copy of this PowerPoint for you, so that you can refer back to it. And just a couple of housekeeping things that I'd like to ask that everybody participate in tonight. That is that if you will keep yourself muted, I think I've got it where I've got it set where you can unmute yourself when we get to the end for questions. But if you will please hold your questions until we run through the overview of the program. We're going to be here formally for about an hour from 7 to 8 p.m. And then Dr. Lupton Smith and I will stay and answer some questions for a little bit of time after that. So if you'll just jot your questions down, hold them till the end. Probably questions that you have, they may be answered at another point in our program. So with no further delay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We do this every time we admit a new group of students. So just for your information, we have about 60 new students coming into the program for this coming fall. We admit only one time per year. So you will come to know those students that you are coming into the program with pretty well, because particularly at the beginning of the program, you're going to be taking the same courses for the most part. There are a few exceptions to that, but you're basically starting with the foundational classes that everybody will take. So, let's see here. Now, why this is not advancing. This slide is not advancing. Well, we're already having technology issues. Wonder why that's the case.
Sometimes I'll click on it. It gets stuck for me too, and then I'll click on it and then go down on it. But
Yep. It's actually very stuck. It's not moving. I'm trying a couple of different ways and it's simply not moving.
Dr. Whiting, did you hit the tab button?
Yeah, I'm doing that.
and if it gets really stuck, I can always just try what I have. I don't know if I'll be any less stuck than yours is, but
Yeah, I don't know why this is stuck. I just checked it about 3 minutes ago and everything was fine. Dr. Lupton Smith, you have access. Can you share a screen? I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull mine up, what I have. You never know what's going to come out here.
Well, I just had this just a couple of minutes before we started.
Okay. Can you see mine? Let me see if mine works. Okay. I can, if this is okay with everybody, I can just go down as you tell me to, or I'll just.
Okay, let's look at the next slide. I'm sorry, guys.
You go.
I want to talk a little bit before we make some introductions about how the program is structured in terms of within the college, the School of Education. So let me see if I can explain that to you. We are a part of two departments in the School of Education. Counseling and Higher Education and Curriculum and Instruction are the two departments. We are obviously in the Counseling and Higher Education program department, and that department has two graduate programs. If you look at bullet point number 3, there is the counselor education program, and there is also the higher education administration program. So we have two graduate programs housed in our department. Our department chair is Dr. Chad Royal, and some of you have already had some kind of connection with him. You have emailed with him, etc. He may have been a person who interviewed you. He was doing some interviews for us, but he is our department chair. The School of Education also has a dean and an associate dean, and you will come to know them over time. Dr. Audrey Beard is the dean of the School of Education, and Dr. Jeff Warren is the associate dean. An interesting fact about Dr. Warren is that he is a counselor educator himself. So we have representation within the dean's office by Dr. Warren. The counselor education program is accredited in a number of different ways, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. We are accredited by the Council for the Accreditation of Counseling and Related Educational Programs, or CACREP, as you might know that acronym. We're also listed in the International Registry of Counselor Education Programs, IRCEP is what that's called. We currently have approximately 200 students, either full or part-time, and 11 full-time faculty members. We also draw from a number of part-time faculty members that you may have for a course or two along the way. We have campus and online programs in 3 what we call tracks: clinical mental health, career counseling, and school counseling. And we're going to talk about those tracks a little bit more. We also have coursework that is required for the clinical addiction specialist license in North Carolina, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that means. Dr. Lupton Smith and I are the co-coordinators for the program. I have been the sole coordinator for the past 10 years or so, and I'm so excited that Dr. Lupton Smith is joining me as we have gotten larger and larger. As you might understand, there's more and more for us to attend to with as many students and faculty as we have. And you're going to hear about some exciting new initiatives that we have. So I welcome her formally as the co-coordinator to the counseling program. Miss Jules Joyner is our administrative support associate, and many of you have already interacted with Jules by email around your registration. For example, if there was a hold on your registration or something of that nature, then she's been in communication with you. Next slide, Dr. Lupton Smith. This is Dr. Jeff Warren. I don't believe, Dr. Lupton Smith, do you see him here tonight? Dr. Warren, are you here?
I haven't seen him on here.
I haven't seen him either. Let me say to all of you, all of the new students, that we are in between semesters. And so some of our faculty will be here tonight, some will not. Many of you know that we had previously scheduled this orientation for earlier, before we took a break from spring semester. And we had to, for programmatic reasons, move the orientation to tonight. So unfortunately, we are in between spring and summer semester, so some of our faculty are taking a much needed break before they teach in the summer. Some who are here tonight will be teaching in the summer, so we appreciate that. But Dr. Warren is a counselor educator himself, and he's our associate dean. Then we have Dr. Royal. Is Dr. Royal here?
I am. I'm here.
There he is.
Just-
I'll get you to just say a quick hello, if you will.
Hello, welcome everyone. We're thrilled that you've chosen NCCU.
Thank you. As I previously said, Dr. Royal is a professor in our program, and he is also the chair of the Counseling and Higher Education Department. Thank you, Dr. Royal. Dr. Barrow, I believe, is here. Is that correct?
I am indeed. Welcome. I'm Jenny Barrow, and I'm just finishing my 10th year at North Carolina Central, having been a high school counselor in North Carolina previously. Welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. Dr. Barrow is an associate professor in our program, and she is the director of the school counseling track. So for those of you who have been admitted to that program, she will become a key figure for you as you matriculate through the program. Thank you. Dr. Beckwith, I'm not sure if she's here. Dr. Beckwith, are you here? Okay, Dr. Alex Beckwith is an assistant professor with us. She has a lot of experience working as a licensed clinical mental health counselor, supervisor in a number of different settings. Her research interests center on wellness and parents and families, as well as social justice counseling. Many of you who may be taking the intro to clinical mental health counseling class will have Dr. Beckwith this fall for that intro class. She's been with us. She's going into year 4, I believe, and she's been with us here for the last several years. Dr. Blunt, I do believe that Dr. Blunt is here. So can you say a hello to everyone?
Yes, hello everyone. Welcome. We are so excited that you have chosen North Carolina Central University to pursue your graduate studies. I will let you know that being a counselor is so rewarding. And so I've been here for 5 years, I think now. And so I teach ethics, and I'm also the field service coordinator. So I look forward to working with each of you in the future.
Thank you, Dr. Blunt. She will become a very important person for you as you get closer to field site placement. She is the person who coordinates all of that for us, and she will begin to give you information about your practicum and internship selection and criteria and all that kind of thing very early on in the program. So you'll hear a lot more from her. Thank you, Dr. Blunt. Our next person is Dr. Malika Edwards. Dr. Edwards, are you here tonight? Dr. Edwards is a research fellow. She is the coordinator of our clinic, our counseling clinic that our program initiated a couple of years ago. She is an adjunct professor with us presently, and it'll be a real treat when you're able to interact with Dr. Edwards, who just defended her dissertation in the past 2 weeks. So now has the new title of Dr. Malika Edwards. So Dr. Kurian is here, I believe.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our program. Welcome to the orientation. I am the director of the clinical mental health track, and I have been here almost 20 years. Dr. Whiting and I came in together, and I have had the pleasure of teaching the multicultural courses, some of the addiction courses a while ago, but teach internship and assessment, advanced assessment, and some other courses, but just welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Curran is telling you that she's been here almost 20 years since she came when I did. We're going into year 23. So she is slightly off on her math about that. And so I just thought I would correct her right there. Dr. Curran has served as the previous chair of the North Carolina Board of Licensed Professional Counselors, and she's presently serving as co-chair of the KCREP Board of Directors. So you can tell she brings perspectives to our program that you'll learn a lot about the politics and the operation of particularly clinical mental health from Dr. Kurian. Thank you. Dr. Lupton Smith.
Hi, everyone. I feel like my face is so much bigger than everyone else's. It's great to be here with you all and welcome. It's very exciting to have you and a very exciting time to get started. I love working. We have such I think such a motivated, exciting group of faculty. So hopefully you'll think that way too. I teach practicum, pre-practicum theories. I've just started teaching group, and we have a neat residency thing we'll tell you about later. And yeah, excited to get to know you all. So
Thank you very much. And Dr. Lupton Smith, as I said, is the co-coordinator beginning in the fall. So she and I will be point people, and we will describe later to you about who you go to for what. We'll do that a little bit later. Next slide is Dr. Carlisha Montague. Dr. Montague, are you here by chance? Okay, she is not. She is an assistant professor with us, and she is the director of the Addiction Studies program. She also serves as a site team member for KCREP, so you can see that our program is well versed in the national standards that council provides for us, and that's becoming more and more critical within counselor education circles. So you'll have an opportunity to interface with Dr. Montague, especially those of you interested in adding the addiction courses that lead to the initial license within North Carolina. Dr. Bredell Moody. Dr. Moody, are you here tonight? Okay, Dr. Moody is an assistant professor with us. He is the newest member of our faculty. We're very excited that he has joined us, and he has experience as a behavioral therapist. He's a licensed clinical mental health counselor. He's a provisionally licensed clinical addiction specialist and a certified clinical trauma professional. So you'll come to know him. He teaches several key courses in our curriculum, and you'll come to know him a little bit better as you go through the program. Dr. Regina Gavin Williams. Dr. Williams, are you with us tonight? Dr. Williams is an assistant professor. She's the director of the career counseling track. She has been with us for, I want to say 5 years, maybe 6. She just won the 2023 Award for Excellence in Professional Leadership, offered by the North Carolina Counseling Association. So we're very proud of all of her accomplishments, and you'll come to have her in the vocational classes, particularly, as well as some other kinds of skill development classes. Dr. Williams. Here I am before my hair turned the color that it is. That was only 4 years ago, guys. That is not a picture that's that old of me. So the pandemic kind of changed a few things for several of us. So there you go. I've been at Central for 23 years, going on 23 years now. And we're excited that you're here with us. The next slide tells you about the most important person in our program, who is Mrs. Jules Joyner. She is our Administrative Support Associate. She's not going to want to speak up, but I'm going to call on her because I know she's here. Jules Joyner, say hello.
Hello, everybody. So I don't know technology, but when I take off this, somebody put this on there for me. I end up being blank, so I don't know how to get myself back on there. But anyway, so welcome, welcome, welcome. If you need anything, please just call, leave a message, or just send me an email. That's the best way. And I will help you with whatever it is that you need done. So that all you have to do is just concentrate on your schoolwork, and I'll take care of everything else. Thank you.
As this slide says, she is our end-all be-all person. We could not keep going smoothly without her. She's been at Central for a long time. She knows people virtually in every department on campus. And as this slide says, if you are wise, you will come to know who she is. Now, you will know from previous correspondence that your contact with departmental folks this summer will be Jules and I. We will be your contacts. Some of the faculty will be busy teaching in the summer. Others are taking off for the summer to do their own writing and research and vacation a little bit before we start the fall. You will be assigned a permanent advisor as the fall semester starts, but you will find that we've got you already registered unless there's a glitch, which you probably know about if there is one. And Jules and I will serve as points of contact. You can reach us probably most efficiently by email. So reach out to each of us if you have an immediate question about paying tuition or your classes for fall, that kind of thing. Now, I've purposefully spent a little bit of time going through the folks, next slide, Dr. Lupton-Smith, going through the folks who you'll be interacting with, because I think that there's a culture in our program of availability and strong mentorship from faculty to students. And so I wanted you to know who we are. One of the persons on that list will become your permanent advisor. I try to make those assignments in some logical fashion based on research interest and where somebody teaches, what track they teach in, et cetera. But we do want to keep sort of an even number across the board. So I will get all of that straightened out, and you will know who your permanent advisor is as you begin the fall. I've already talked about these three things, but we are CACREP accredited. Many states, North Carolina being one of those states, is now requiring for licensure that folks graduate from a CACREP accredited program. North Carolina is one of those states. So you can rest assured that if you will be seeking a license for clinical mental health, that you will have everything that is currently required in order to receive that. So we are in sync with the licensure requirements for North Carolina and for many other states. You can talk with your permanent advisor at another time about where you plan on practicing if it's outside of North Carolina, so that you can be proactive about making sure that you have all the coursework for that particular state license. We are also, as I said, endorsed by the international group IRSEP, and we are a Criteria C addiction specialist program, which gives you sort of a heads up, you know, and a leg up really on the requirements for the initial license as an addiction specialist in North Carolina. Next slide. We are accredited, all of our programs, whether they're online or on campus, whether it's clinical mental health, career, or school counseling. We are all CACREP accredited through October 31st, 2030. We had a very successful reaccreditation 2 years ago. We got the maximum amount of time that's allowed, which is 8 years. So we're pleased that you are entering a fully accredited program and will be graduating from a fully accredited program. ERSIP, as I said, just says that we are endorsed to train qualified counselors that can serve mental health needs around the globe. Next slide. The North Carolina Criteria C program, I'm going to tell you just a little bit about that. And that is that there are 4 courses that are required for the addiction studies program. One of those is the Intro to Addiction class, which is required by all the clinical mental health majors. So that's required by everybody who's that major. Then there are 3 specialty classes that you would add to your program of study in order to complete this. Now, what is the utility of this for you? If you are in particularly the clinical mental health field and you would like to carry the initial license as an addiction specialist, given how mental health needs and substance abuse work hand in hand in so many different ways, you will qualify for the initial license in both areas by taking these additional courses. There are add-on courses that would take you beyond the 60 hours that are required for the clinical mental health program. And we'll talk in a minute about what those courses are. But there is some additional coursework associated with that. Dr. Montague will be your contact person, excuse me, and your academic advisor can help advise you and get you in contact with Dr. Montague to get some more information. Next slide. We also have Dr. Lupton-Smith, I'm going to put you on the spot and just ask you to talk just for a minute about the Eagles Clinic, which has been in operation 2 years now. Can you just give them an overview of what this is about? That would be great.
Sure. So there's a long name for it, but we call it Eagle Counseling Clinic. And we're on the 2nd floor in the School of Education. And there's kind of a picture of our website in our lobby area. And yeah, this is something I think our whole faculty is very proud of. We serve the community ages 13 and up. We also see some central students. Clients can come for free to low cost. Our whole goal is to put students in here and train students, as well as break down barriers to counseling and people receiving services. So we don't have to take health insurance. We can see, and we don't take health insurance. Our whole goal is to really reach out. And last thing I'll say is that it's kind of, we have a foundation of wellness, social justice, and multiculturalism. That's kind of the foundation of how our clinic operates. So 2 years and going strong. So, yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Lupton-Smith was one of the originators of this clinic. She had been in charge of a clinic at North Carolina State prior to coming to Central. And so she brought that expertise to our university, and we're very proud of what has happened with the clinic. Dr. Malika Edwards is our director of the Eagles Clinic, and you'll come to know her a little bit later. Next slide. Our counselor education program has what's called learning outcomes. And these are the broad objectives, learning objectives that we have for you and all of our enrolled students. I'm going to just briefly summarize these. We want every person who graduates from our program to develop a philosophy of practice that integrates research and evidence-based practices. So we want you to be in the realm of being a professional, not just a helpful person. You're here probably because somebody along the way said, you know, you listen to people pretty well, or you really helped me in this situation. I think you would be a natural person for this kind of profession. So now what we want to do is take you as a natural helper and develop you into a professional counselor. So we want you to have this solid philosophy of practice. We want you to be able to apply knowledge, skills, and dispositions that go along with our profession's code of ethics. We want you to develop a professional identity so that you know who you are, you know what the needs of your client populations are, you are culturally competent in your practice, and you know how to appropriately use assessment tools and procedures. We also want you to be able to operate with expertise at all different kinds of levels, the individual, group, family kinds of counseling with all different kinds of issues, personal issues, social issues, emotional, career, educational issues that impact a person across the lifespan, that impact their development. We want you to develop some leadership ability, some advocacy skills, and we want you to be a person who acts to remove systemic and individual barriers to development for people and to access to care for people. And we want you to be able to build collaborative partnerships with stakeholders. We are all about promoting social justice, equity, and access. And many of you are very familiar. You chose NCCU because of the kinds of initiatives that we're interested in. So you already kind of know this, but I wanted you to know that regardless of your major, those are the major learning outcomes that we have. Additionally, on the next slide, we have what's called dispositional behaviors. And what the American Counseling Association says about what dispositions are is that dispositions are about the well-being, the readiness, the ethics, and the characteristics of counselors in training. So part of our job as faculty is that we're called upon to be gatekeepers. And what are we keeping the gate for? We are the gatekeepers that protect the public when they seek service with you. And the kinds of characteristics that the American Counseling Association, ACA, has identified that effective counselors have, they're listed here, but they include confidence, sensitivity, awareness of your own limitations, emotional stability, empathy, flexibility, open-mindedness, and tolerance for ambiguity. So part of what our program's mission is targeted toward is to help you develop and expand those characteristics. You may have many of these. We hope that you do coming into the program. But we want you to expand your, for example, ability to be flexible or your ability to be empathic. And you'll learn ways to do that and be challenged to think about those things over the course of the program. So being a successful student in our program is not just about your academic performance. It's more than earning good grades. We are responsible as gatekeepers to ensure that these dispositions are present in students in training, and especially those who graduate from our program. We do have what's called the dispositions committee, and students are referred if some concern should come up. And this committee is not a punitive committee. It is a committee to help you raise your consciousness if you are in a blind spot about some of those affective characteristics. So those are called dispositional behaviors, and you will be evaluated on those as well as your academic performance. What we also know is that we are in the business of developing within you what we call professionalism. And professionalism, we know, has a direct correlation with employment. So the aspects of professionalism that we ask you to pay attention to are these dispositional characteristics I just talked about, your demeanor. How do you operate when you're out in the world? Your dress. Do you present yourself as a professional person? So there's not a specific dress code, but we ask you just to raise your awareness about, are you presenting yourself in the way that you behave, act, look, in your language, both written and oral? And I challenge you starting today to do your own inventory of your social media accounts. Look on there and ask yourself this question. If a client I was serving, that could be a student, if you're a school counselor, it could be a client that you're seeing in a practice situation. Would you be okay with them seeing every picture, every reference, every word that's on your social media account? And if your answer is not 100% yes, then go in, I challenge you, before you start in August, go in and make the appropriate changes. Next slide. So just like our overall program has learning objectives, and we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but we have program learning outcomes for, here they are for clinical mental health. On the next slide, you'll see them for the school program. They each have 4 learning outcomes, each of these tracks. And on the next slide, you'll see them for the career counseling program. Now, these are in the student handbook. You will hear about these in your introductory classes that you take in all 3 of these areas. But just rest assured that we are structured with overall goals and learning outcomes for any counselor. And then we have goals and learning outcomes depending on what your major is. Next slide. I'm going to turn it to Dr. Lupton Smith, and she's going to talk about some of the national organizations and the state organizations within our profession. Dr. Lupton Smith.
Thanks. Yeah, I think it's really important that you know that you are not alone and you are connected as you enter this field to a broad body. And the American Counseling Association is our national umbrella organization. I don't think you can join ever too soon. I think it's really great to start thinking on this level as you begin the program. And I'll talk a little bit more about the state organization in just a minute, but through these different affiliations, you can network. It's helpful for career. It's helpful for professional development. There's just so many benefits of this. And either Dr. Blunt or Dr. Whiting will talk later. When you join, you're gonna need to get insurance at some point, and that's Dr. Blunt will talk about that. But yeah, so when you join as a student member, you get insurance and stuff like that, and that's part of our process down the road when you get ready to go into the field. But yeah, American Counseling Association is the national organization. There's also the American Mental Health Counselors Association, which is another good one that you can become affiliated with, especially if you're in the clinical mental health track. There's all kinds of conferences going on, and I think some of these are in the summer, and as you get into it and as you join, those are some of the benefits of being able to network kind of regionally and nationally. The American School Counselor Association, if you're the school counseling track, I would say Dr. Blunt, Dr. Barrow know a lot about, as some of our key school people, about the benefits of getting involved in that association, and also just career-wise networking, again, professional development. So just want you to be aware of all these different opportunities because it's really good to think that way even at the beginning. There's also National Career Development Association. They also have a conference. There's a big one out in California in June that I'm not sure if our faculty are going to, but I know several have gone in the past and presented at that conference and through that association. So that's another key one, whether you're career track or school or clinical. The one that I want to highlight is the North Carolina Counseling Association. There is usually a conference that is more local, so it's easier for students to get involved this way. Several of our students have volunteered in the past at these conferences and actually gotten a discount on registration and been able to go. I personally have presented with students in the last 2 years, this one in Greensboro and one before. And I know Dr. Barrow has. So I think it's good to partner with faculty and get involved with these kind of conferences. Students also can do poster sessions at these conferences, at the state conference. So this is a real key one. This is probably more accessible as you enter in, but you may really want to think about joining the North Carolina Counseling Association and getting involved really kind of locally and across North Carolina. Okay, so yeah, more just be aware of the North Carolina School Counseling Association, and if you're in the school counseling track. There's also a North Carolina Career Development Association. And so I think Dr. Whiting will get you all of these, and here are the website links so you can find out more. There's divisions within these associations, like the American Counseling Association and the North Carolina Counseling Association. There are divisions that you can join within those groups that have more specialty areas that you may be passionate about. So that's something that you can look on the website and see what are the branches and divisions that you want to get involved with. And personally, for me, I'm involved with the Counselor Educator Association as part of North Carolina Counseling Association because I'm a counselor educator and that's something that I'm passionate about. So I've really gotten involved and started at member at large and taken on different roles, and then to the president-elect role, and then I'll be president the year after next. And it just really takes, to be honest, interest and initiative. So hopefully we'll have a lot of future ACA presidents and NCCA presidents on this call. Okay. So the last thing that I want to mention before passing it back over to Dr. Whiting is we have our own chapter called the new Chi Chi chapter of Chi Sigma Iota. And Chi Sigma Iota is the Counseling Academic and Professional Honor Society that is part of our program at Central. I am a co-advisor along with Dr. Bredell Moody. We are meeting with our student board this week to really get started and get students engaged and interested. And there's so many benefits of joining Chi Sigma Iota. Grants, you can be available for grants, awards, webinars, professional development, networking events, career resources. So it's a very helpful organization to join. And I think the main thing I'll tell for you all is students are eligible to join CSI after completing their first full semester of coursework. If you have a 3, 5 and above, and I'm pretty sure it's 9 hours, which is a full semester of coursework, then you are eligible to apply to be part of our own chapter of CSI. And we had a big induction this past April, and a guest speaker. It's a big community event, and a lot of our social connection runs through this organization. So I really encourage you to think about it, and we will be coming and talking to you more to kind of garner interest and get you involved. So I think that's it for now, Dr. Whiting. Pass it back to
Okay,
you.
the next, thank you, Dr. Lupton Smith. I hope many of you will think about not only Chi Sigma Iota, that would be your second semester, as Dr. Lupton Smith said, and you'll hear more about that. But in your first semester, but also that you'll think about finding a niche with at least one of the state organizations. We know that these things cost money to join. Their student memberships at reduced fees, and we do encourage you to get involved. If you're from out of the state of North Carolina, each state has their own state organization affiliated with counselors. And so find out where yours is in your home state and search around a little bit and participate in the activities that those more local and regional organizations are offering. The next two slides just simply give you the course numbers and names of everything within our program. And you'll see that a few of these courses have the yellow highlight, and that is because the majority of you will be in 2 or 3, depending on what you told me you wanted, 2 or 3 of these classes for the fall. Some of you may be transferring these classes in, which we ask you about on our registration survey, or you may have taken these courses as a non-degree student with us, and they will be applied to your plan of study, if that's your situation. Our prefix for the counseling courses is CON. And the courses have 500 level numbers, which indicate they're graduate courses. The majority of you will begin with CON 5201, Ethical and Professional Orientation to Counseling. And if you skip down a little bit, CON 5310, Theories and Techniques of Counseling. If you have not been a non-degree student with us, if you are not transferring anything in and you wanted 2 classes, those are the 2 classes you're going to take. If you wanted to take an additional class, then what I did was to put you into your first specialty class. If you're a school counseling track major, then you would be in CON 5303, the Introduction to School Counseling. If you are a career person, you would be in CON 5320, Vocational Theory and Career Development. On the next page, you will find CON 5381, Introduction to Clinical Mental Health Counseling. And again, if you are transferring any of that in, if you've taken those courses with us as a non-degree student, we've taken all of that into account in what I put you in, what I registered you for fall semester. As you meet with your permanent advisor after fall begins, you will talk with them more about how many courses you want to take per semester, what the sequencing of your classes would look like so that you get the correct prerequisites at the right time, so that you're in either a campus or an online section, etc. So they will be your advisor for things to come. They will also serve to help you process any transfer credit that you have. So many of you wanted guarantees from me about what would be acceptable transfer credits. I gave you my opinion based upon the transcript that I saw with your admission materials, but our transfer of credit, there is a form that has to be filled out with your permanent advisor in the first semester. So next fall, once you meet with them, they will process that form. You will need another transcript to go along with that. And then that is voted on by a committee. So we do not unilaterally, I'm not in a position to unilaterally say, oh, yes, we'll accept that. So I've said to you before, yes, that seems like a reasonable transfer credit. And I did not say that to you if I didn't think that was the case. But this is our running our running sequence of classes, and you'll find this in the student handbook. Next slide. There are some courses that you will need your advisor's signature on this form, which is called an override form. There are a handful of classes, and your advisor will tell you which classes those are. What this means is that the class either has a prerequisite or it's an advanced clinical placement class that your advisor has to say, yes, you're ready to go into this class. Otherwise, you will be able, after you have an advising appointment each semester, you will be able to take your additional what's called alternate PIN number and get yourself into these classes if there is no prerequisite and you have no holes on your account and all that, you should be able to put yourself in to register for the majority of those classes. When you got instructions this time from the graduate studies office, when you were admitted, they talked to you about getting an alternate PIN from an advisor. And many of you wrote to Dr. Royal and to me to get that PIN number. And then we proceeded to say to you, well, in our program, for the fall semester, you don't need a PIN number because we register you in advance of advising with your permanent advisor. But just know that sometimes there'll be an override form that looks like this that your advisor will have to fill out with you in order to get you in a more controlled class, okay, that has prerequisites. The next slide just gives you a sample of a program of study. Each of the 3 tracks is 60 semester hours, and they have required courses and spots for at least one elective, sometimes more. They correspond here. You will find that about 40 hours of coursework out of the 60 overlap over all 3 tracks. That's because a counselor is a counselor is a counselor, and everybody gets the same foundation, and then you branch out into your particular major. And you take specialty courses within that major. So you will be given by your permanent advisor your program of study for the program that you are admitted to. On the next slide, you will find that there is a possibility for you to become a dual major. And what this means is that you will add an additional program of study to the current one that you were admitted to. So many of you asked me the question when you were applying, can I apply to both the school and the mental health program, both the career and the school program, etc.? And I said, well, no, you cannot apply to anything except for one primary track. So whatever your primary interest is, apply to that program. And once you're admitted, which you now are, you can talk with your permanent advisor about adding a second degree. A minimum of 18 additional hours, so that would take you to 78 hours, will be required, including an additional 600-hour internship, in order to add a second major. Okay, there is a form that has to be processed with this. So if you're interested, for example, you're admitted to the school counseling program, you're interested in adding the clinical mental health major, you would talk with your advisor, you would fill this form out, you would be prepared to take the additional 18 hours and the additional internship. And you would graduate with 2 master's degrees in both areas. Many of our students take advantage of this. I will tell you that once you graduate from the program, if you try to come back and add the second major, it is 36 hours, not 18 additional hours. So I just want you to know that up front, that if you think you might be interested in a career that spans 2 different areas, talk with your permanent advisor about adding that while you're already enrolled in the program. Next slide talks about those of you who happen to be second degree students. A second degree student means that you have completed and been awarded another graduate degree. Could be in a counseling field, it could be in a non-counseling field, but you have earned, not just taken a few courses, you have been awarded another graduate degree. And the second degree students, this is something that you would talk with your permanent advisor about, that the second degree students have an individualized plan of study where if you have taken a course that meets certain criteria, and your advisor will talk with you about that, that course might be waived for you instead of you having to take that course again. And your advisor will give you very honest and transparent advice about that. Just so that you know, the Clinical Mental Health Licensure Board has restrictions on acceptable courses from previously earned degrees. So you may hear from your permanent advisor, yes, that sounds like a course that's similar to something that we require, but we don't believe that the licensure board will accept that. Perhaps that course was taken too long ago. Perhaps that course was from a non-KCREP accredited program, etc. In that case, it may feel as if we're going to ask you to retake something that you've taken. We're doing that to ensure that you don't complete our program thinking you've got all the credits you need. You then apply for your clinical mental health license and get a letter saying, well, you're not eligible because you need to take a human growth and development course from a KCREP accredited program. And if we've allowed you to bring that in from a non-KCREP approved program, it's suspect as to whether they're going to accept that to meet that particular content requirement from the board. Your permanent advisor can talk with you about your individual situation related to that. But I just want you to know that from the beginning. NCCU will require, even if you have an earned degree, and another counseling degree, in order to receive a master's degree from our institution, it requires 36 hours within our program, given we're a 60-hour program. Your advisor can help. If that's clear as mud, then your advisor can help you understand that a little bit more in the fall. So we also within our student handbook, you will find policies related to grade appeals and grievances. Should you find that you earn a degree that you earn a grade that you think is not fair or accurate, then there is a procedure for how you would go about first talking with your instructor and then filing either a grade appeal or a grievance around that grade. You will also find that, and I think the graduate school has said something different here, but we are accepting up to 12 hours of graduate work can be transferred in. Now we're gonna also talk with you very transparently about what those transfer courses need to look like. We may ask you for a syllabus for that course to make sure it's equivalent with whatever that content area is within your curriculum. In terms of extensions, if you'll go right back, Dr. Lupton Smith, just at the bottom, you have 6 years to complete the program. If you have circumstances where you need more time than that, you would talk with Dr. Lupton Smith or me about that as a coordinator, and we will get you the proper procedure to ask for an extension. If you ever need to reapply for admission, then there also is an extension request or a reapplication, a readmission process that we can help you with. Next slide now. In terms of academic expectations, here are the possibilities for what you can earn as a graduate student grade-wise. Most of you will be in the A-B category. We hope everybody will be. C indicates low passing work. You are placed on academic probation by the graduate school after you receive 1 C in a course. You cannot graduate with 2 Cs. So if you receive your second C, then you are dismissed from the program. You can petition to come back into the program, but you will be required to retake at least one of those courses. You cannot graduate with 2 Cs on your academic record. Your cumulative grade point average has to be at a 3.0 in order to graduate with a degree from our program. Next slide. We do for online students. I'll just speak very briefly about this. We do require what we call 3 residencies. This is the first. We hold this obviously virtually, but it is required. It's the orientation of the program. The second, what we call residency, has been associated with the group counseling class, CON 5351. It has traditionally been held on campus so that you have an opportunity for in-person interaction with classmates and faculty and advisors, and you are able to see our campus and our School of Education. Excuse me, and Residency 3 has traditionally been held on campus, but it's also recently been held virtually. And it's associated with CON 5371, your pre-practicum and counseling course. We used to absolutely require that our online students come to our Durham campus for residency 2 and 3, and we have post-pandemic changed our policies around that. You will know in plenty of time whether yours is going to be held on campus or virtually, but it is more of an intensive time period, and you probably will need to take off work. For example, with our group residency, it spans 2 full days. So you will know very much in advance what those days are so that you can make arrangements for childcare, for jobs, for travel, if it's on campus, et cetera. We will keep you informed about that. And I also just want to mention to you that there is a discipline to online education. And here is my advice to you about this. Do not get behind. It is very easy as an online student, particularly if you're taking asynchronous classes that are not meeting at a specific time during the week. It's very easy to procrastinate, put off. I'll do this over the weekend. You get sick over the weekend. A family issue comes up over the weekend. You run out of time. You underestimated how much time it was going to take, and you get behind. It is very difficult to catch up. So our advice to you is, there's someone piping in here saying she is right. Do not get behind. It is really imperative that you keep up with your reading, that you discipline yourself with a calendar that says, okay, I'll have this assignment due on this date in this week of classes for this particular class that I'm taking. Here are the other assignments, to coordinate those, to look ahead. If you don't do that, I promise you, you will find yourself in trouble very, very quickly. There is a discipline to that. Next slide. Dr. Blunt, may I ask you just to give a very brief overview of the difference in practicum and internship and what our MOA, which is on the next slide, looks like. We don't need a lot of detail about this, but just an overview of this, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. So part of the program, as you all know, is you all have a field experience component, and this is essentially similar to an apprenticeship. So there are two components to our field placement process. And once you finish phase one and then you move into phase two, towards the end of phase two, you will have either practicum or internship. So those are our two core field placements. And so within practicum, this is where you would be on site with an agency or a school. The requirement is that you would complete a cumulative total of 100 hours of field experience. And many students have asked, well, can I complete my practicum 100 hours in 2 weeks or 3 weeks? And the answer is no. This process is meant for you to grow over time. So you will have to complete the practicum within the duration of the semester. And so if you're planning to complete practicum either in the fall or spring, you can anticipate being at your site roughly 10 hours a week, which could be 2 days a week, okay? So we do not require that you have on-site supervision, but we do recommend that because you will be looking to your site supervisor for, of course, mentorship and modeling. Okay. And so within this component, we do expect that you are engaged in individual and group counseling. So we do not want you just to observe counseling sessions. We want you to actually participate in that process. Okay. Now let me break down this 100 hours. It sounds like a lot, but wait until you get into internship, it's even more. So KCREP has mandated that we as a program, we students have a cumulative total number of direct hours versus indirect hours. And so for practicum, the total number of direct hours that you must have is, I want to say 60, if I'm not mistaken. And then the remaining 40 can be of indirect service with clients. So when we say with clients, we mean breathing the same air as the client. Now, there is a policy on telemental health that I can share with you. We are not endorsing agencies that have telemental health at home. So if they do have telemental health for our clinical mental health folks, you have to be on site conducting the telemental health. So we know that, you know, the pandemic, we're transitioning over to that. So that's one of our new rules. Now, after you have successfully passed practicum, You will be supervised by a university instructor. The next phase is internship. Okay. So internship, you must have a cumulative total of 600 hours. Now, we do have students that tend to divide their internship up into 2 semesters. Okay. So if you're working full time, we want you to start thinking about how you can, once you get into your field experiences, how you're going to transition out of that, because there's no way for you to work full time and complete your internship. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But you can complete your internship into 2 semesters, which would be 300 hours. So you would take internship 1 and internship 2 within 2 semesters. If you're a school counselor, you can divide it up into 1 semester and do a full 600-hour internship. And so we want your internship to mirror the activities of that of working counselors. So you'll have more responsibilities with an internship versus practicum. And this is your final task before graduation. Now, I will let you know that many of our students, they are hired at the agencies and or school districts. So our students do very, very well, and we're well known within the community for that. Now, if you are a double major, you will have to complete an additional 600-hour internship. So if you're school counseling and you're double majoring in clinical mental health, you will have a full 600-hour internship that you're responsible for. So that pretty much explains a little bit about practicum and internship. And later on, I'll tell you more about the direct hours, but I know it's past 8 o'clock, so I want to be mindful of the time. Okay, the next slide. Okay, so the memorandum of agreement. So this is our legal binding contract that we have between you, the site, and the counselor education program. So typically we house this through DocuSign. I'll tell you more about all of that, but this is a requirement that you must have this contract, and it has to be typed, and I'll go through that once you go into pre-practicum and group residency. And so you cannot enter your placement until we have this MOA, and this has to go through our legal team. So there is a lengthy process to this. It's not, oh, I'm going to select a site and I'm going to do my internship. No, we have to actually screen the site supervisor, make sure that they have the appropriate credentials that KCREP has mandated. And so that's a little bit about the field service component, but you will hear this again in group residency and pre-practicum. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Blunt. And as she has said, you'll hear a lot more about field site placement, our policies, our criteria. You'll be walked through the steps of how to do all of this. So that just gives you an overview of what's to come. Practicum and internship are at the end of the program, so you'll have plenty of time to get all that together. I'm going to be very brief on this slide because most of you have already created your NCCU account. It demands that you use your banner ID, which is your 820 numerical number. You want to always keep that in your phone so that you know we will ask you 1,000 times, what's your banner ID? And you will need to be able to pull that up really quickly. Your initial, you have 2 PIN numbers. Your initial registration PIN is your date of birth, month, day, year. You can change this for security reasons, but that's the way that you would initially log in. Your alternate PIN is what you receive from your advisor every semester in order to be ready to know what classes to take for that semester. You get that alt PIN after you advise. You do not need this PIN for the fall, as we previously said, because you're already registered. If you're not, I will be the person who will be registering you. If you have difficulty or are having trouble with your NCCU account, please contact Ms. Joyner. And she'll let you know if you need to contact IT. Your primary portal for access to registration and tuition is found on the homepage of nccu.edu at the top right, called My EOL. Dr. Lupton Smith, we're going to now move forward through a number of these different slides. Keep going right here. You see My EOL there. Here are the list of services under My EOL once you're logged in. The next slide. This is our counseling website, and I do want you, most of you are familiar with this. You looked at this to get programmatic information before your interview and while you were making decisions to come to our university. It is nccucounseling.com. That is your source of information for anything related to our program. You will not need to look through the graduate studies division or anywhere else. You can go straight to, and I encourage you to do this. You will also, on our homepage, there is a place for you to join the counseling listserv so that you receive all of the bi-weekly announcements that come out to all students. Let's move ahead if we can. You'll see that there's a student homepage, and here's where you're going to sign up for the listserv. Keep going. You'll see under the student section, there is the handbook, the 2024 hot off the press updated handbook is available for you on our counseling website. And on the menu on the left, you will find everything from a current textbook list to forms that you will need, to syllabi, sample syllabi, to the graduate catalog, to anything about advising, plans of study, etc. So if you've not looked under not future students, but students now, I ask you to peruse that section of the website and you'll find all different kinds of information there. Okay, plans of study are also there, and we've talked about those. Yes, the next slide. I just want to very briefly say to you that there are some additional program requirements that will come up as you matriculate through the program. Your mid-program review is held within the pre-practicum class before you are endorsed to go out into the field and see real clients. So you're going to be moving from simulations with classmates to seeing real people. And we are gatekeepers, as we talked about earlier, and that's what that review is about. The comprehensive exam is a requirement of CACREP accredited programs, and it is an overview of the total content of our program. You take it in the semester that you are in practicum, which is the semester before you plan on graduating. You will get more information about that, but my advice to you about comps, we call them, is study in the classes that you're in. Keep your notes. Don't sell every textbook back immediately, because that becomes your study material along with some other materials for comprehensive exams. And you'll hear much more about that from your advisor. Your final defense is an application case example that you will apply. It's a culminating experience in your final internship where you're given a case and you work through several kinds of questions that are given to you in internship. Then at the very close of the program, you will be eligible to take the licensure exams for both clinical mental health and school. The career field does not have a licensure exam, so that's why that's not listed here. Those will come toward the end of the program. You may take them a semester or so in advance of graduation, and you'll hear more about that. Okay, so this is what you want to do. Establish your NCCU email and account. From this point on, we will communicate only through your NCCU email. Okay, so I've been communicating with you through the email that you gave in the admissions portal. But once you get your NCCU email established, that's the email we use to communicate with you. Join the listserv on the website. Pay the tuition when you're prompted to pay it, or you get dropped from your classes and you have to put yourself back in, or I have to put you back in all over again. Keep your banner ID easily available. Watch for your permanent advisor information through your NCCU email. You are registered for fall unless you've heard from me or Jules that there is some issue with your registration. If you're not registered, there's some issue or you need to make a change, contact me. And I will then be in contact with Jules and we'll get that information straightened out. Okay, at this point, we appreciate the fact that you have hung with us through the formal part of our program. I will say to you again that all of this information is available to you on our on our website and or in our student handbook. There is just one other piece of information that I want to give you, and that is that if you were interested in being considered for a graduate assistant package, which includes a tuition waiver and a very small stipend, then I need you to send me an email indicating that with a current resume and a subject line that says GA interest. And I need that by Monday, May 27th. Okay, which gives you a little bit of time to gather that information together. You must initially have a 3.0 cumulative undergraduate GPA. Please don't ask me, is a 2.88 good enough? This is federal government money, and the answer is no. I don't make the rules on this. Your initial GA consideration, you must have a 3.0 undergraduate GPA. And you must be willing to take 9 hours in the fall and 9 hours in the spring for approximately 20 hours a week work somewhere with our faculty or program in the School of Ed. Okay, I'll be happy to talk with you more individually about that. If you need some more information about GA eligibility, but those are the basic requirements. Okay, at this point, we will let those of you who do not have questions, we'll conclude this program and we'll let you go ahead and drop off. You're welcome to stay, and Dr. Lupton Smith and I will stay for a few additional minutes and field some questions that you might have. Again, welcome to the program. We're glad you're here. Jules and I will be your contacts this summer, and then you'll be expanding your contact with other faculty persons as the classes start in the fall. So thank you so very much for being here tonight. Okay, if you will put your questions in the chat and or unmute yourself, then Dr. Lupton Smith and I will field the questions as they come up.
I just had two quick questions, and one of them may be like too far out. But one of my first questions was, I'm in the program for school counseling, and I'm from a very small district. Not every school is staffed with a school counselor, but with a social worker. So for an internship, does it have to be a school counselor to be my point person, or would it be like, is the social worker an acceptable person?
Dr. Barrow, what would you say about that? Just to give just a
I know that's a
No,
Sorry.
it's not, it's a great question. I've heard what we've done in the past for our counselors in rural areas who are primarily singletons. I'm thinking about Wilson, North Carolina specifically. I had a
I'm much
student,
smaller than Wilson. So,
sure, sure. We had somebody in the same county at a different level. So they were at an elementary school and they were being supervised by a high school counselor.
okay, so it
the-
is okay that they're at different schools. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you this, the trick is I would request that you leave your site to go to that site to do your supervision for 1 hour a week.
Okay, yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get pulled in a lot of different directions.
Okay. All right, perfect. That sounds good.
And
And
we will work with you. Let me just add and say, we will work with you, Dr. Blunt specifically, and Dr. Barrow, as the director of the school program. They will work with you and we will bridge where you're not gonna be left with no option
Okay.
because you live in a rural area.
perfect.
That's the
That makes
bottom
me feel
line.
better because we are a very tiny school district. So I just wanted to make sure that that was something that y'all had dealt with before. And then my second question is, I know when I interviewed somebody, like another prospective student asked something about finishing the program within a certain time period. And I remember one of the professors saying, yes, there was a cap on the program length. Is that extended if you decide to add on an additional degree, or is it still that same cap time
Well,
limit
you
on?
have 6 years,
Correct.
according to university policy, and
Right.
that would be plenty of time for you to finish the additional.
Okay, I
additional
couldn't remember if it
classes.
was 4 years. I couldn't remember what it was.
6.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
All right, thank you so much.
Uh-huh. Next question.
So for any questions that we may have about our classes, we should just wait till we get our permanent academic advisor to ask them about what classes can transfer, which credits can transfer, what kind of classes to take. We should just wait until we get assigned an academic advisor.
Yes. Now,
Would that be easier?
Jennifer, I took into account if you filled out the registration survey and said
Right.
that you were anticipating transferring things in, I looked at your transcript. And so I took that information into account. If you
Yeah,
have
I didn't
que-
take
Go
I
ahead.
didn't take any of the counseling classes so obviously I'm in all your intro counseling, but actually all your educational classes, I've taken those because I actually have my master's in education. So like the educational research and the statistics.
That's something you're going to talk with your permanent advisor about.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And then, so the textbooks, will she also let me know what textbooks I will need to purchase?
Yes.
Okay, because I noticed I didn't find a list.
Your advisor won't be telling you that. Your individual instructor will have that information listed on the syllabus, and we have an updated textbook list on our website. In the
Okay.
event you wanted to purchase your textbooks ahead of time. I would ask you to check with the instructor of your course just to make sure that's the correct text before you order
Okay.
it from Amazon.
Got it. And then, if we're taking the online mental health counseling classes, are we able to take classes during the summer or winter session too, or are we only allowed to take them during the fall and spring?
No, we have a full slate of classes in the summer.
Got it. Okay, thank you so much.
Uh-huh.
Following up with that, I put it in the chat, but it was before you opened up questions. I know I sent you some emails to Dr. Whiting. But are we able to take classes this summer if we already have like a year of credit?
No, you're not. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Once you are admitted, full-time into our program, that is your status. I did check with that with the graduate admissions people, and that is not a possibility.
Okay. So even though I'm already like currently taking a course, or I just finished a course beforehand, it wouldn't be able to transfer at all, or would I be able to take it somewhere else, or is that possible?
Why don't you talk with me individually? What
Okay.
you're saying, what she's referring to is that she's taken courses as a non-degree student. That's what I'm understanding. And you
Right.
want to know, can I take more courses this summer as a non-degree student? And the answer to that is no, you can't. Now you're no longer a non-degree student. You're a fully admitted student in the eyes of the graduate studies division, and you're not eligible to take additional courses this summer. You
Okay.
will be next summer, but not this summer.
Okay. Thank you.
Dr. Whiting, is that the same for those who are coming in for a second degree?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Next question. Let me see what's in the chat here.
Yeah, there's one about elective. What classes can you take for an elective? And then I don't know if you want to answer that, Dr. Whiting.
Yeah, you'll have a whole array of classes. I wouldn't worry about what you're going to take as an elective right now. That's something you can think about for the future. My advice to new students is stay with your required classes right now. Don't be venturing toward an elective quite yet. And then your permanent advisor can give you some more information about options that'll be available to you. What's our next question, Dr. Lutz-Smith?
There's one about how can you tell if your class is synchronous or asynchronous? Where do you
That
go?
will, yes, that will be listed under your class schedule, I believe. When you have, let's see, when you are, most of you that are taking the first two intro classes, those are asynchronous classes. None of those is a synchronous class. Now, if you are off schedule because you're transferring things in or you've already taken things, then you can check with me and I'll show you how to read the class schedule so that you know whether it's synchronous or not. Synchronous means that you're going to meet for a designated time, one time per week. Most of you will be in asynchronous classes this fall. Okay, let's see.
I think she might, Taja, is that right, Taja? Did you want to unmute?
Yeah, I can mute. It looks like several of us have questions about the tuition cost. So I've been having a hard time finding the exact tuition cost and where I can find that on the EOL website, because I don't know how much I should be accepting as far as my FAFSA awarded amount. And then how to pretty much like, if we already have health insurance, how do we opt out of that as well?
Yeah. My understanding is that your bill, your tuition bill will be generated and available through your EOL account, your individual account. So once you are signed in on the menu, there will be a place that says pay tuition here, and that will tell you the outline of all of your fees. Okay.
Gotcha.
If you're registered, you should be able to access that. I'm saying you should be able to access that now, but I have heard from some students that it has not been generated. Dr. Royal, do you know when that might be available for students?
I don't know specifically when, but I would be more specific to say within my EOL, look or click on the banner 8 link. It'll be in banner, not
Okay.
just my EOL.
Gotcha. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Just in case it's helpful, I actually called the registrar because I had the same question, and they said it would be generated in July.
July. Okay. Gotcha. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jessica said currently registered for group counseling and online student. Will I still have to go to campus or will it be asynchronous in the fall?
Jessica, let's talk offline because you're an anomaly taking the group class in the fall. Okay,
That's perfect. I just wrote down that I'll go ahead and email you tonight or tomorrow.
that's great.
Thank
That's
you
great.
so much.
Another question, I believe Dr. Barrow has put the link from our website to the textbook list that's there. Let's see, that's group counseling, tuition.
I think Carol had a specific tuition question, but maybe that's either been answered or maybe that's a individual.
Yeah, sorry, I asked a highly specific question, but I think y'all would know this right off the bat that the per year cost is roughly $10,000, not $20,000, right?
Well, it depends on if you're in or out of state. I'm reading what you've written here and whether you're online or campus. All of those have different tuition generations. You're saying that you are
In state on campus, and it's just Ellucian has like a almost double the figure as what was given by EOL, so I just need to verify which one is correct.
okay, showing 10,000. I assume but can you confirm, Dr. Royal, can you help with this? I want to make sure that we're saying the right thing. This is a campus student.
I got confused by the wording of the question, so let me just reword it here. You're saying that when you log into Banner, it's showing a bill for over 10,000 just for a semester?
Yes, I assume that can't be right.
That does not sound right.
Okay. Because I'm looking at the graduate fee schedule available from last year, and it sounds like it should be half that.
Yeah. That might require contacting the registrar's office just to see if things are configured correctly.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
Sorry, I can't be more help with that.
Did you see the other one, Dr. Whiting? You mentioned that 2 classes were needed to be able to qualify for financial aid. I looked on my EOL, it says I'm a half-time student. Is 2 classes not full-time or is 3 the number needed to be full-time for financial aid?
Well, for financial aid, you need to take a minimum of the technical amount is 4.5 hours. Well, we don't have anything but 3-hour classes. So in order to qualify for financial aid, you need to take 6 hours. Now, whether they are qualifying you as a full or a half-time student, Dr. Royal, can you answer that question? Because they've changed their policy on that actually. But 2 classes are definitely needed to qualify.
Yes, and I apologize. I was reading something else and not listening to the dialogue, so I don't know what was asked.
Okay, what was asked, it has to do with 2 classes being needed to qualify for financial aid. And yet this person is saying they're a half-time student. They're categorized as a half-time student. Their question is 2 classes not full-time, or is 3 the number of classes needed to be full-time?
Yeah, three is needed to be considered full-time, and financial aid it will require you to have 2 classes.
2 classes, that's right. So being full-time and qualification for financial aid don't necessarily imply the same thing. Does that answer that question? Yes,
Can I say something here?
sure.
So best thing to do is just to email me. So in my opinion, when you have financial aid questions, you really should email financial aid, because we know a lot of things we in the program, but when changes happen, they're not going to email us and say, oh, okay, here's an update. So the best thing to do is to email financial aid. And if you send me your question, I can give you their email address and their phone number. And it's best that you get your answer from the department that really determines that. But like Dr. Whiting said, you need to be 4.5 credit hours and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I think if you need something more, that you should really contact the department that handles that. And always, always write down the person you spoke to. So just, you know, even if you don't understand it, you know how they say, hey, I'm blah, blah, blah. And then so you ask your question. And if you didn't get their name, just say, hi, what was your name again? You know, because I just really want to thank you. And then they'll tell you their name again. Because what happens to me is like, well, I called financial aid Tuesday. She said, blah, blah, blah. I go, there's more than one she, you know, because then this way I can go and email you, because usually what I'll do to help is to email that person that you said you spoke to Peggy Whiting. So I will email Peggy Whiting on your behalf, CC you to say, look, you said this, is that correct? And I will help you maneuver Central. I will help you maneuver the campus, whatever, you know. So instead of you, if you get an email you're not sure of, even though it's in English, just forward it to me and I'll tell you what it says. And then, or I'll take that email and forward it to even somebody else in that department to say, hey, can you clarify this? Because it's better if the department that is, you know, that you have a question about, if they answer, and we can help you interpret the email, but it's best that you get your yes or no or specific amounts or whatever from the department that handles that. Okay?
Yeah,
All right, so just email me and then we'll just take it from there.
right. Somebody had asked a question of, is it too late to add a class essentially for the fall? No, it's not. So you would email me and say, I would like to add a third class if you need that for whatever reason. Sometimes in order to be full-time, you may need to be full-time status in order to receive the student insurance, for example. I don't know whether that's what they're telling you or not. But just be aware that it is accurate that you have to take 2 courses for financial aid. If you're needing to be full-time, then technically they're probably telling you 3 courses. Okay. No, you do not have to be at the same placement for practicum and internship. Those experiences are 2 years beyond where you are. So you won't need to be worried about having a site placement vetted for quite some time. And you will be guided in the program when you come upon time to do that. But do not be concerned about that right now. Other questions? Anything we have not answered, if we overlook something in the chat or?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Just circling back to the full-time student part. If you are working full-time and then you become a full-time student with taking three classes, I guess what would that look like as far as time management?
It would look like a ridiculous amount for you to be taking. I'm going to be transparent with you. And I've told any of you who has asked me this, if you were working full time, I would not start out this program with 3 classes. Now, you will have about 1 week to 10 days of time of drop add time once classes start, where you could assess by looking at what the syllabi look like for these courses. But that will be a hefty load. So one question that I would ask everybody, because we've had a lot of chatter about this, what is your reasoning for needing to be full-time? Okay, are you concerned about insurance? Are you concerned about how long it's going to take you to get through the program? 2 classes is plenty to start out in our program. And for those of you who have been out of school for a while, or you've never taken a graduate course, or your life is very full with work and home responsibilities, I would say to you, do not venture toward 3 classes. I'm just going to be really honest with you about that. We want you to be successful. And so I may have said that to many of you if you've asked me that. And our students who take 2 courses and then they get their feet wet and they kind of know where they're going, you have opportunities to take more courses at other times when you can adjust your life a little bit more. This is not a race through the program thing. 3 classes and a full-time job.
Okay.
Is a
With
lot.
that being said, I guess my next question would be, is the time frame to graduate roughly the same with taking 2 classes versus 3?
It's roughly the same. Yes. So when people say, how long does it take to get through the program? My response to that is, it depends on how many courses you take. It generally takes around 3 years to get through the program. No one can get through the program in less than 2. There's no possibility. There's no configuration of classes that you can't take enough classes to get finished in 2 years. So generally it's 2.5 to 3 years. If you add LCAS courses, the addiction courses, if you add a second major, you're adding time every time you do that. Additionally, in the summer, not counting this summer because you're not eligible to take courses, but going forward, you have an opportunity to take courses in 2 separate shorter sessions. So theoretically, you could take 4 courses in a summer. It would be a very, full summer, but you could theoretically do that. Where you took 2 in first session, 2 in second session. Dr. Kurian, did you want to add something?
I did. I just wanted to, I'm so excited that all of you are here, and I and I know everyone's got life going on, but you're entering into a profession, whether you're a school counselor, a career counselor, a clinical mental health counselor, and you are going to be responsible for helping people. You need to take the time to be able to learn the material. You need to learn the content, learn the skills. When we have a physician or other people that are in a space that they're helping people, we're responsible for helping people with their mental health. This is not a race, as Dr. Whiting has said. You're given a lot of responsibility, and we want students to understand that you got to take it seriously. If you're going to be a practitioner, we wouldn't want our physicians to rush through programs because they got to get it done. We want a physician that's very knowledgeable. They did well in these classes. They're taking things very seriously. So this is what we want to impress upon you, is that you are going to be a practitioner. You're going to be providing mental health services. This is not something to rush through. This is something that you have to really absorb and take time with the material. So I just want to implore all of you to take the time and not rush through. It's not a race. You wouldn't want your physician or your doctor to race through their program. In fact, if you found somebody said, yeah, I had a doctor, they finished their program in 2 short years, you'd be like, okay, I'm not going to go to that physician because they rush through. They may not have all the knowledge that they need to help me. And it's the same with people. You have a responsibility. If you become and finish this program successfully, you will be responsible for the mental health of individuals. You need to take your time and absorb the material, learn the material in an ethical way. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Korean. And I just want to echo and say this, that, you know, if you begin the, if you begin and you see, oh, I really think that I can handle more courses, then you can take more courses. So you'll get, because some people will say, wow, 2 courses, Dr. Whiting was right. I could have never done more than 2 courses. Others of you will say, well, you know, it's real clear. Dr. Whiting emphasized just take 2 courses and I could have taken 3. And, you know, and so it's like, you're going to have to get a feel for what your pace is, for what your learning style is, for what your time management is like, for what your life is like. And it's going to shift over the next 2 to 3 years also. It's not going to stay exactly the same. So you'll be the best expert to decide, what can I handle? I would start slower, not faster. If I started with a full load, then I would pay attention to the drop add period, and I'd be really honest with myself about what it looks like in all 3 of these courses, given my current life. You know, how reasonable is this? And you can get kind of a sense of that. You can also get a sense a little bit in advance of that by looking at a sample syllabi on our website, because you won't have the syllabus for the fall up there yet, but you can see some of the more current syllabi, and they don't change tremendously. We update a syllabus, but they don't change tremendously, and you can get sort of a feel for, how does this, oh, this is a lot of reading, or this is a lot of writing, or whatever the situation is, and you might get a gut feeling yourself of what you're able to handle within your life. One last question. Anybody? We pride ourselves in being available to our students, and you'll come up with other questions. And you can either hold those questions for your permanent advisor, or if you need those answers more immediately, Jules and I will do our best over the summer to answer those questions for you, or to direct you as to where you need to go, so that you can find those answers. Email me with a question, and I'll give you the best answer that I can. If I don't know, then I'll find out where to send you, that kind of thing. And there'll be plenty of other opportunity, I promise, for you to get all of your questions answered. We just wanted you to kind of get your feet wet a little bit and get an understanding of where you are going into the fall. And you'll be hearing from me again before fall starts. Incidentally, just I want to make sure that everybody knows this, that once you're registered for your classes and tuition is paid and we get close to the start date in August, you will be automatically linked with your Canvas shell for that particular class. Some of you have asked me before, do I have to set up Canvas separately? No, you do not. You'll automatically be linked with the Canvas shell for the classes that you're registered for. You won't have to do anything else. And then that shell, as we get closer to fall, will begin to fill up with materials that will show you what you'll be doing in the fall. Please don't go in there next week and then email me and say, Dr. Barrow does not have anything in her shell for the fall. Because I'm going to write back and say, that's right. She's involved in teaching classes for the summer at the moment. So her fall shell is not up next week. It will be up closer to the fall. But
I mean, I don't want to brag, but no.
So, and actually, I selected her because of all of us. She might be the one who could have hers open by July. I don't know. Please don't look in my class for materials before August. I'm just going to tell you that. But it'll all be there in plenty of time for you to see and plan in advance what you're what your life is going to look like. And then just follow the instructions. Canvas is pretty easy for students to follow. Any last words or thoughts, or faculty or students? Dr. Lupton Smith, anything from you?
No, this was very thorough. Thank you.
Sateria, you have your hand up.
Oh,
Yes, I was just wondering if you guys had any recommendations on graduate housing.
I would contact Residential Life to get that information, that if they have any. I know that they have a limited amount of graduate
There is grad student apartments right next to the School of Education, but I think that's the only facility on campus that's specific to grad students. But there are multiple apartment locations up and down Fayetteville Street, as well as Austin Avenue.
What about those apartments, Dr. Royal, that were they're much further down Fayetteville?
My understanding is, are you talking about campus housing?
They're apartments. I thought that we owned those. I can't think of the name of them offhand. We had to go there.
Campus Crossing.
Campus Crossing, yeah.
They're not campus owned. They have a connection with campus, but my understanding, the only specific ones at the campus is actually like a campus-based dorm is the one that's right next to the School of Ed.
I wrote her name down. I'll email her.
Okay.
Anything else?
Hello, I had my hand up. I just had one last question. So, as you were talking about as far as the classes and being registered for 2 classes versus 3 classes, and since we are already registered for classes, if we want to possibly drop down to 2 classes from what you said, do we have to now wait until the fall, until that drop add period?
No, if it's anything about that's a great question. If it's anything about your fall schedule, you contact me
Okay.
between now and August, and we will adjust your schedule.
Okay.
The sooner the better, quite honestly.
Okay. Thank you.
Because what it does is open slots and, make things available for other people if you're making a change. Please remember, if you're interested in a graduate assistantship, you will need to be taking 3 classes. Okay, so if you happen to be in that category and you're going to apply for that. All right. Thank you so very much for your attention and your investment in our program. We're so glad that you're here. Let me know if I can help you in any way in this transition time. The graduate school will also, and probably already has, sent you an invitation. I believe they're doing some of these this week, to a new student orientation that they offer that is more generic. It's not about the counseling program, it's about being a graduate student at NCCU. And so you might find that also helpful to attend. But that's a separate kind of orientation. It's not the same orientation as you've just been through here. This is very program specific. So let me know if we can help you, and take good care of yourself and take some time just to relax and enjoy the upcoming summer before you start back to school. Thanks. We'll see you soon.